My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I held that tiny hospital bracelet. The plastic was still crisp, the ink sharp and clear. Baby Boy Morrison. March 14, 2024. Yesterday's date. But my daughter told me her son died 3 days ago. I stood in her driveway. Her car door still open. Trash bag forgotten at my feet. The morning sun felt too bright, too cheerful for what I was holding. My chest tightened until I couldn't breathe properly. My grandson, the baby I'd been grieving for 72 hours, had been alive yesterday. My sweet Lily, my only child. She'd called me sobbing on March 11th, barely able to form words. He's gone. Mom, he didn't make it. The doctors said he never took a breath. I'd driven 6 hours through the night to reach her apartment in Springfield. I'd held her while she cried. I'd made funeral arrangements while she stared at the wall in shock. And now this bracelet was burning in my palm like evidence of a crime I couldn't yet name. But let me tell you how I got here, and why I'm about to tear my daughter's life apart to find my grandson. My name is Margaret Morrison. I'm 63 years old, and until 3 days ago, I thought I knew my daughter. Lily had always been sensitive, the kind of child who cried at roadkill, who adopted every stray cat in the neighborhood. After her father died of a heart attack 5 years ago, she spiraled. Depression, anxiety, a string of terrible boyfriends. I watched helplessly from 2 states away as she dropped out of community college, lost jobs, moved apartments every few months. When she called last October to tell me she was pregnant, I heard something in her voice I hadn't heard in years. Hope. I'm going to get my life together. Mom, she'd said. For him. I'm going to be the mother he deserves. The father was out of the picture. Some guy named Derek who'd disappeared the moment she told him. But Lily seemed determined. She went to every doctor's appointment. She sent me ultrasound pictures. She picked out a name. Ethan James Morrison. After my late husband. I'd been planning to drive up for the birth, scheduled for March 15th, but on March 11th, that horrible phone call came instead. Mom. Her voice was destroyed. Raw. He came early. Mom. He didn't make it. They said his lungs weren't developed enough. He never cried. He never. I don't remember the drive to Springfield. I remember arriving at her apartment at 3 a.m., finding her curled on the bathroom floor. I remember how small she looked. How broken. 24 years old and holding a teddy bear meant for a baby who'd never hold it back. The next 2 days were a blur. Lily barely spoke. She wouldn't eat. She refused to talk about funeral arrangements. Refused to see anyone. I stayed with her, sleeping on her lumpy couch, making calls to family, handling the awful logistics of infant death. This morning, she'd finally fallen into an exhausted sleep. I'd noticed her car in the parking lot, the passenger seat piled with fast food wrappers and empty water bottles. I'd thought I'd help by cleaning it out. I wish I hadn't, because now I was staring at this bracelet, and my mind was racing through impossibilities. The hospital ID number was printed below the name. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and Googled Springfield hospitals. There were 3. I called the first one, Sacred Heart Medical Center, and my blood ran cold when the automated directory mentioned maternity ward extension 2647. This was real. This bracelet was from Sacred Heart. Yesterday, I looked up at Lily's apartment window. She was still sleeping, and I had a choice to make. I could go upstairs, confront her, demand the truth. Or I could dig deeper first, find out exactly what happened before she could construct more lies. I climbed into my car, started the engine, and drove to Sacred Heart Medical Center. The hospital was a sprawling brick complex on the east side of Springfield. I parked in the visitor lot, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The bracelet was in my purse, wrapped in a tissue like something fragile and dangerous. Inside, the lobby smelled like antiseptic and coffee. A volunteer at the information desk smiled at me. An older woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read Helen. Can I help you, dear? I opened my mouth, closed it. What could I possibly say? My grandson was born here. I'm trying to get information about. Oh, congratulations. Helen beamed. What's the mother's name? I can direct you to maternity. Lily Morrison, I said. My voice sounded distant. Strange. The baby was born on March 14th. Helen typed into her computer, her smile fading slightly. She frowned, typed more. I'm not seeing a birth record for that name on the 14th. Are you sure it was this hospital? The floor tilted under my feet. Could you check March 11th? Maybe I have the date wrong. More typing. More frowning. Nothing on the 11th either. Let me check the week. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. No. I'm sorry. No Lily Morrison in our maternity ward at all this month. But I pulled out the bracelet. Hands shaking. This is from here. Look at the ID number. Helen's expression changed instantly. She went very still, staring at the bracelet like it was a snake. Where did you get this? Her voice was sharp now. Professional. My daughter's car. She told me her baby died. But, wait here. Helen stood abruptly. Picking up a phone, she turned away, speaking in a low, urgent voice I couldn't quite hear. I sank into a waiting room chair, my legs suddenly weak. Around me, normal hospital life continued. A pregnant woman waddled past, her partner carrying her bag. An elderly man shuffled toward the elevators. The PA system announced visiting hours, and I sat there, holding proof that my grandson existed, in a hospital that claimed he didn't. 5 minutes later, a woman in a dark pantsuit approached. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, ID badge that read Sandra Pierce, patient advocate. Mrs. Morrison, I'm Sandra Pierce. Would you mind coming with me? She led me through a maze of corridors to a small office. The door clicked shut behind us. Ms. Pierce, I don't understand what's happening. That bracelet. I need you to tell me everything. Sandra interrupted, pulling out a notepad. From the beginning. And I need you to understand that what you're showing me is extremely concerning. So I told her. Lily's phone call. The stillbirth story. Finding the bracelet this morning. The ID number matching this hospital. Sandra's face grew more grave with every sentence. Mrs. Morrison, she said carefully when I finished. Hospital bracelets are serialized and tracked. That number should be in our system. But I just checked. And that number isn't registered to any birth in our database. What does that mean? It means either someone generated a fake bracelet with our format, or, she paused, choosing words carefully, or a bracelet was issued but never entered into official records. The room felt too small suddenly, too hot. Why would that happen? Sandra looked at me for a long moment. Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Do you have any reason to believe your daughter might be involved in illegal adoption or child trafficking? The words hit me like a physical blow. No, Lily would never. She wanted that baby more than anything. She's not some criminal. She's troubled. She's made bad choices, but not. I need to make some calls, Sandra said, standing. I'm going to contact our security office and our legal team. I may also need to involve the police. The police? Mrs. Morrison, if a baby was born in this hospital and disappeared from our records, that's a crime. And if your daughter has that baby's bracelet but claimed he died. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. I sat alone in that office for 20 minutes, my mind spinning through possibilities, each worse than the last. Lily had been so desperate for money. She'd lost her job at the grocery store in January. She'd mentioned falling behind on rent, on bills. She'd been vague about Derek, the father, saying only that he had money but didn't want to be involved. What if there was no Derek? What if this had been planned from the start? The door opened. Sandra returned with a man in a security uniform and a woman in a police uniform. Mrs. Morrison, this is Officer Janet Chen. She'd like to ask you some questions. Officer Chen was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She sat across from me, a recorder between us on the desk. Mrs. Morrison, I need you to understand that anything you tell me could become part of a criminal investigation. You're not under suspicion, but I need complete honesty. Do you understand? I nodded, unable to speak. Tell me about your daughter's pregnancy, everything you remember. So I did. The October phone call, the ultrasound pictures. Had I ever actually seen her pregnant? We'd only FaceTimed a handful of times, and she'd always worn baggy clothes. She'd canceled my visit for Christmas, saying she had the flu. My planned visit in February had been pushed back because her apartment was being fumigated. With every detail I shared, Officer Chen's expression grew more serious. Did your daughter ever mention financial difficulties? All the time. She was always struggling. I sent her money when I could. I'm on a fixed income, my late husband's pension, but it was never enough. Did she ever ask you for large sums? Thousands of dollars? I thought back. In January, she asked for $5,000, said it was for baby furniture and medical bills. I told her I didn't have it. She got upset. Said she'd figure it out. Officer Chen and Sandra exchanged a look. Mrs. Morrison, Sandra said gently, there's something you should know. About 6 months ago, we discovered a nurse in our maternity ward was involved in an illegal adoption scheme. She was fired and arrested, but the investigation is ongoing. We've been working with the FBI to identify any babies that may have been sold through this network. The world tilted again. You think, Lily? We don't think anything yet, Officer Chin said, but this bracelet being in her possession, combined with her story about a stillbirth, raises serious red flags. I need you to give me permission to investigate your daughter. She's my daughter. I know, but there's a baby out there somewhere who might need our help. My grandson, Ethan, somewhere out there, possibly with strangers who'd bought him like property. Do whatever you need to do, I whispered. Find him. Officer Chen made several phone calls, speaking in low tones about possible trafficking case and need warrant. Within an hour, she had approval to access hospital records related to any suspicious births around March 14th. What she found made my blood run cold. There had been a baby boy born at Sacred Heart on March 14th. No mother's name in the system. Delivered by emergency C-section. Nurse's notes indicated private adoption. Expedited processing. See admin. But the baby's bracelet number in the official record was different from the one in my purse. 2 bracelets, Officer Chin said grimly. The real one in the system. And this one. Probably given to your daughter as proof of the birth for anyone who questioned her story. So where's the actual baby? That's what we're going to find out. Officer Chen drove me back to Lily's apartment. It was just past noon. My daughter would be awake by now, probably wondering where I'd gone. Mrs. Morrison, I need you to act normal, Officer Chin said as we pulled into the parking lot. Don't confront her yet. I have detectives working on tracking the adoption network, but we need more information. Can you stay with her? Keep her calm? I'll call you within a few hours. You want me to lie to my daughter while she's grieving a baby that might not be dead? I want you to help us find your grandson before this network moves him somewhere we can't reach. I nodded numbly and got out of the car. Upstairs, I found Lily awake, sitting at the kitchen table in her bathrobe. She looked up when I entered, her eyes red and swollen. Where were you? Just getting us some groceries, I lied, my voice steadier than I felt. Have you eaten anything? She shook her head. On the table in front of her was a photo album, one I'd made for her years ago, full of pictures from her childhood. She was looking at a photo of her father holding her when she was maybe 3 years old. Do you think Dad would be disappointed in me? She asked quietly. My heart cracked. Lily, sweetheart, I failed. Mom, I couldn't even. Her voice broke. I couldn't even keep him alive. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and demand the truth. But I thought of Officer Chen's words. Act normal. So instead, I made tea. I sat beside her. I held her hand. And I studied her face, looking for the lie. She was good. If I hadn't found that bracelet, I would have believed every tear, every broken word. But now I saw the calculation behind her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. I saw her fingers twitch toward her phone every few minutes, like she was waiting for a call. Lily, I said carefully, I need to ask you something about the funeral arrangements. She went very still. Did you want to see him? Before they? No. Her voice was sharp, almost panicked. No, I can't. I can't see him like that. Just a cremation, okay? No funeral. I can't handle people staring at me, pitying me. Cremation. No body. No proof of death. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Officer Chen. Don't let her leave. Warrant approved. Coming now. Lily, I said, trying to keep my voice gentle. Why don't you take a shower? Get dressed? It might help you feel a little better. I don't want to feel better, she said, but she stood anyway, shuffling toward the bathroom. The moment I heard the water running, I moved. Her phone was on the counter. I grabbed it, praying she hadn't changed her passcode. She hadn't. It was still her birthday. The same code she'd used for years. The text messages made me want to vomit. A number saved as D had been messaging her for months. October 15th. You're sure you're committed to this? No backing out? Lily, I'm sure. I need the money. You promised $50K. November 3rd. Got a buyer lined up already. High-income couple. Can't have kids. They'll pay premium for healthy white newborn. January 28th. Need your medical records. Buyers want proof of healthy pregnancy. March 10th. Hospital contact says you're cleared for tomorrow. C-section scheduled for 2 p.m. Stick to the story. Complications. Premature labor. After delivery. They'll take him straight to adoption processing. March 14th. It's done. Your payment is being processed. Remember, baby died at birth. Stick to the story. Destroy the bracelet. March 15th. Yesterday. Why haven't you destroyed the bracelet? Are you stupid? Get rid of it now. Lily. I will. I needed to keep it for one more day. March 16th. This morning. Payment delayed. Buyers want DNA test to confirm no genetic issues. Might take another week. Lily. A week? You said 3 days. Deal with it. And destroy that bracelet. I took photos of everything with shaking hands. Then I heard the shower turn off. I was back on the couch. Phone in my pocket. When Lily emerged in clean clothes. Her wet hair dripping on her shoulders. You okay? Mom? You look pale. Just worried about you. Sweetheart. I managed. There was a knock at the door. Lily froze. Are you expecting someone? No. Maybe a neighbor? But we both knew what this was. Officer Chin stood in the hallway with 2 other detectives and Sandra Pierce from the hospital. Lily Morrison? Officer Chin held up a badge. Springfield Police. We have a warrant to search this apartment and to bring you in for questioning regarding child trafficking and illegal adoption fraud. The color drained from Lily's face. She looked at me, and in that moment, I saw her realize that I knew. Mom, where is he? Lily? My voice broke. Where's Ethan? I don't know what you're talking about. We have your text messages. Officer Chin interrupted. Or we will in about 5 minutes once we seize your phone. You can cooperate now and help us find your son. Or you can make this harder on everyone, including that baby. Lily's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, hands over her face. I didn't have a choice. She sobbed. I didn't have a choice. The rent, the bills. Derek left me. I had nothing. Where is the baby? Officer Chen's voice was steel. I don't know. Lily's scream was raw. Real. They took him. Right after the C-section. They took him. And I never saw him again. They said it was better that way. That it would be easier if I never. She looked up at me, mascara streaming down her face. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I could do it. I thought I could just hand him over and take the money and move on. But the moment they cut him out of me, the moment I heard him cry. He cried? I whispered. He was perfect. He was perfect. And they wrapped him up and took him away. And I tried to stop them. I swear I tried. But the nurse said it was too late. The adoption was already processed. And if I said anything, they'd make sure I went to prison for fraud. Officer Chen was already on her phone. We need immediate tracking on that adoption network. Baby's approximately 12 days old. Born March 14th at Sacred Heart. Buyers are expecting DNA test results. They still have him. The next 2 hours were chaos. Detectives swarmed the apartment. Lily was read her rights. Handcuffed. Led away sobbing. Officer Chen sat me down in the apartment parking lot and explained what would happen next. The FBI has been tracking this network for months, she said. Your daughter's cooperation gives us leverage. The buyer, a couple from Connecticut, hasn't finalized the adoption yet because they're waiting on that DNA test. That means the baby is likely still with an intermediary. Can you find him? We're going to try. Try isn't good enough. Officer Chen's expression softened. Mrs. Morrison, I need you to understand something. Even if we find him, the legal process is complicated. Your daughter committed a crime. She'll face charges. And the custody situation. He's my grandson. I know. And we'll fight for you. But this is going to take time. Time I didn't have. Time Ethan didn't have. I called my sister that night from a hotel room. I couldn't stay in Lily's apartment. Couldn't bear to be surrounded by baby clothes and stuffed animals purchased with blood money. Margaret. Oh my God. Sue breathed when I finished the story. What are you going to do? I'm going to find him. I said. Whatever it takes. The FBI moved fast. By the next afternoon, they'd arrested 3 people involved in the adoption ring. The nurse from Sacred Heart who'd facilitated the C-section, a lawyer who'd created fraudulent adoption paperwork, and a woman who acted as an intermediary, holding babies during the transition period before delivering them to buyers. That woman, Carol Patterson, 57 years old, living in a suburb 40 miles from Springfield, had Ethan. Officer Ching called me with the news. We're executing a search warrant now. I'll call you as soon as I'm coming. Mrs. Morrison. That's not a good idea. That's my grandson. I'm coming. Sue drove me. We followed the address Officer Chen had reluctantly provided, arriving at a modest split-level house with a carefully manicured lawn. Police cars lined the street. I was out of Sue's car before she'd even parked, running toward the house on my bad knee, ignoring the pain. Officer Chen intercepted me at the sidewalk. Mrs. Morrison, stop. You can't go in there. Where is he? They're bringing him out now. But I need you to prepare yourself. He's been well cared for, but he's not technically in your custody yet. A female officer emerged from the house carrying a car seat, and inside that car seat, wrapped in a blue blanket, was a baby. My grandson. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I moved forward like a magnet pulled to metal, and Officer Chen didn't stop me this time. The officer set the car seat down carefully on the front lawn. I knelt beside it, my arthritic knees screaming in protest, and looked at the tiny face. He had Lily's nose, my late husband's dark hair. He was asleep, his little fist curled near his face, completely oblivious to the chaos surrounding him. Ethan, I whispered. His eyes fluttered open. Blue. They were still that newborn blue. He looked at me, and something in my chest shattered and healed simultaneously. Hi, sweetheart, I said through tears. I'm your grandmother, and I've been looking for you. Officer Chen crouched beside me. We're taking him into protective custody. Family Services will do an evaluation, and then there'll be a hearing to determine placement. He belongs with me. I agree, but there's a process. I touched one finger to Ethan's tiny hand. He gripped it reflexively, and I nearly sobbed. How could she? I whispered. How could Lily do this? Officer Chen didn't answer. There was no good answer. They let me ride with Ethan to the Family Services building. I sat in the back of the police car, the car seat secured beside me, and I sang to him old lullabies I'd sung to Lily decades ago. At Family Services, a kind woman named Ruth explained the situation. Emergency foster care for 48 hours while they processed everything. A custody hearing scheduled for the end of the week. You're his grandmother, Ruth said gently, and you reported the crime. Those are significant factors in your favor. But Mrs. Morrison, I need you to understand. The judge will consider your age, your health, your financial situation. I raised a daughter on my own after my husband died. I can raise my grandson. I believe you. But you need a lawyer. A good one. Sue found me a lawyer that night. Patricia Gaines, a family law attorney who'd handled custody battles for grandparents before. She met me at my hotel the next morning. All business and sharp questions. The good news, Patricia said after I'd told her everything, is that your daughter is facing criminal charges, which severely impacts her parental rights. The bad news is that the father, if we can identify him, may have legal standing. There is no father. Derek doesn't exist. Lily made him up. Then we need to prove that. We need Lily to formally terminate her parental rights. And we need documentation that no legal father exists. Then we petition for you to have full custody. How long? If everything goes smoothly? 3 to 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of Ethan in foster care while the legal system crawled forward. That's not acceptable. Patricia's expression was sympathetic but firm. Mrs. Morrison, I understand your urgency, but this is the reality of family law. The system prioritizes the child's safety and welfare, which means careful evaluation of all potential guardians, including you. That night, I visited Lily in jail. She looked small in the orange jumpsuit, her hair unwashed, her face bare of makeup. She couldn't meet my eyes. Mom, I found him. I interrupted. The FBI found Ethan. He's safe. Her head snapped up. He's okay? He's not. He's perfect. Beautiful. Healthy. I leaned forward, my voice hardening. No thanks to you. Mom, please. You have to understand. I don't have to understand anything. What I need is for you to sign termination of parental rights. Immediately. Lily's face crumpled. You want me to give him up? Forever? You already did that when you sold him. I was going to get him back. I was going to wait a few months, save up the $50,000 they paid me. And then, Lily, stop lying. She dissolved into sobs. The guard in the corner shifted uncomfortably. I waited until she quieted. Then I said, more gently, I know you're sick. Lily, I know you've been struggling since your father died. I know the depression, the bad choices, It's been eating you alive. But that baby deserves better than this. Better than foster care. Better than a mother facing federal trafficking charges. He deserves better than me. Yes, I said quietly. Right now. He does. Lily signed the papers 3 days later. Her public defender advised against it. But she did it anyway. Full termination of parental rights. No father listed on the birth certificate. She admitted Derek had been a fiction. A composite of details to make the story believable. The custody hearing was scheduled for April 2nd, 17 days after I'd found that bracelet in Lily's car. Patricia prepared me thoroughly. They'd evaluate everything. My health records, my finances, my home, my character references. A social worker would visit my house back in Indiana. They'd interview my neighbors, my friends, my doctor. You need to understand, Patricia warned me the night before the hearing, that they may still place Ethan in foster care temporarily. You're 63. You live on a fixed income. You have arthritis and high blood pressure. On paper, you're not the ideal candidate. On paper, I'm his grandmother who loves him and wants him. That might not be enough, but it had to be. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Judge Catherine Holland presided. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. The family services caseworker testified about Ethan's current placement with an emergency foster family. The FBI agent explained the trafficking case. Patricia presented my petition for custody. Then it was my turn to testify. Mrs. Morrison, Judge Holland said, I've reviewed your petition and the supporting documents. I have some concerns I'd like you to address. My mouth went dry. Of course, Your Honor. You're 63 years old. Raising an infant is physically demanding. How do you plan to manage the sleepless nights, the constant care, for the next 18 years? The same way I managed when I raised my daughter. I said steadily, with love and determination. Yes, I'm older. Yes, I have arthritis. But I'm healthy otherwise. My doctor submitted a letter confirming I'm physically capable. And I have a support system. My sister, my church community, my neighbors. Your income is limited. Can you provide financially for a child? I've already looked into assistance programs, WIC, childcare subsidies, Medicaid for Ethan. My pension isn't large, but it's stable. I own my home outright. I can provide for him. Judge Holland studied me. Mrs. Morrison, I appreciate your commitment, but I need you to answer honestly. You could have a relatively peaceful retirement. You could travel, relax, enjoy your golden years. Instead, you're asking to raise an infant. Why? The courtroom was silent. Because he's my family. I said simply. Because when my husband died, I thought that was it. I thought I'd lost my chance at having that kind of love again. And then Lily called me last October and told me about the pregnancy. And suddenly I had hope again. Hope for the future. For watching a child grow. For passing on my husband's stories and my family's history. My voice cracked. When she told me Ethan died, I grieved. Not just for him, but for that future I'd imagined. And then I found that bracelet. And I realized, he was alive. Somewhere out there. My grandson was alive. And I thought, I can't fail him. I can't let him grow up not knowing where he came from. Not knowing he was loved from the moment his mother first felt him kick. I looked directly at Judge Holland. I'm 63. I might not live to see him graduate college. But I will love him fiercely for however many years God gives me. And that has to count for something. Judge Holland's expression was unreadable. Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. I'll take this under advisement. The hearing ended. Patricia squeezed my hand. You did well. Now we wait. We waited for 6 hours. At 4:47 p.m., Patricia's phone rang. She listened, her face brightening. Yes, thank you, Your Honor. She hung up and turned to me, grinning. Emergency temporary custody granted. You can pick up Ethan tomorrow morning. There'll be follow-up visits and a final hearing in 6 months. But unless something goes drastically wrong, he's yours. I sat down hard on the courthouse bench, unable to stand. He's mine? He's yours. I brought Ethan home to Indiana on April 4th. Sue drove while I sat in the back, unable to take my eyes off the car seat. He slept most of the way, occasionally waking to fuss until I gave him a bottle. My house felt different with him in it. Fuller, louder, more alive. That first night, I set up the crib in what used to be Lily's room. I laid Ethan down carefully, watching his chest rise and fall. On the dresser, I'd placed a photo of my husband, Ethan's grandfather, the man he'd never meet but whose name he carried. We did it. Jim, I whispered to the photo. He's home. He's safe. Ethan stirred, making tiny baby noises. I reached down and touched his soft hair. Your mama made a terrible mistake, I told him quietly. But it doesn't mean she doesn't love you. She lost her way. And maybe someday, when you're older, we can talk about forgiveness, about how people are complicated, how they can make the worst choices and still have good in them. He yawned, his little fist waving. But that's for later. Right now, you're stuck with me. Your ancient, stubborn grandmother who's going to do her best to give you a good life. Deal? He didn't answer. Of course, but his hand found mine, and he held on tight. The final custody hearing happened 6 months later, in October. By then, Ethan was crawling, babbling, reaching for everything. The social worker's visits had all gone well. My doctor confirmed I was managing the physical demands. The FBI's case against the trafficking ring had resulted in multiple convictions, including the buyers from Connecticut who'd tried to purchase my grandson. Lily had pleaded guilty to child trafficking and fraud. She was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, with credit for time served. I visited her once before the final hearing. She looked better, healthier, her eyes clearer. Prison therapy and medication had given her a stability she'd never had on the outside. I saw the pictures you sent, she said quietly. He's getting so big. He is. Does he? Does he look like Dad? More every day. Lily nodded, tears spilling over. Thank you for fighting for him, for not letting him end up with strangers. He's my grandson. Will you tell him about me? Someday? Yes, I said. I'll tell him his mother loved him, but she was sick and made a terrible choice. I'll tell him she did the right thing in the end by letting him go. And I'll tell him that people are complicated, and sometimes love isn't enough. Will he hate me? I don't know, I said honestly. But he'll know the truth. That's all I can promise. Judge Holland made the custody permanent on October 18, 2024. Ethan James Morrison was legally my son now, adopted fully and completely. That night, I sat in the rocking chair in his room, holding him as he drifted off to sleep. He was 7 months old, perfect and healthy, with no idea how many people had fought for him. Outside the window, autumn leaves fell in the fading light. The house was quiet except for Ethan's soft breathing. I thought about that morning in March, standing in Lily's driveway, holding that hospital bracelet. The moment everything changed. If I hadn't cleaned out that car, if I hadn't noticed the date, if I hadn't called that hospital, Ethan would be in Connecticut right now, with people who'd bought him like furniture. He'd never know his real name, his real family, his real story. But I did find you, I whispered to his sleeping form, and I always will. He sighed in his sleep, his tiny hand curling around my finger. 5 years later, Ethan's 5th birthday party was chaos in the best way. My backyard was full of neighborhood kids running through the sprinkler, sticky with cake and watermelon. Sue had helped me set up a bounce house. My church friends had brought enough food to feed an army. Ethan stood in the middle of it all, wearing his superhero cape, directing the other children in some elaborate game only they understood. He'd inherited his grandfather's dark hair and his mother's quick smile. He was smart, funny, endlessly curious, and completely, wonderfully mine. Grammy, he ran over, dripping wet, grinning. Can we do presents now? After we sing happy birthday, buddy? He groaned dramatically but ran back to his friends. Ruth from Family Services had become a friend over the years. She stood beside me now, watching Ethan play. You did good, Margaret, she said quietly. I had help. You had determination. That's what saved him. I thought about Lily, still in federal prison in Pennsylvania. We exchanged letters monthly now. She'd gotten her GED, was taking college classes, was working with a therapist who specialized in postpartum depression and psychosis. The doctors said she'd likely been experiencing severe mental health issues even before the pregnancy. Untreated trauma from her father's death, spiraling depression, desperation that had clouded her judgment completely. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it helped me understand it. Last month, she'd asked if she could see Ethan, just once, through supervised visitation when she was released in 2 years. I'd told her I needed to think about it. Grammy, it's time, Ethan shouted, pulling me back to the present. We gathered around the picnic table. I lit 5 candles on the dinosaur cake. Everyone sang while Ethan beamed, soaking in the attention. Make a wish. Sweetheart, I told him. He squeezed his eyes shut, thought hard, then blew out the candles in one breath. Everyone cheered. Later, after the party ended and the guests left, after the backyard was cleaned up and the leftover cake was put away, Ethan and I sat on the porch swing. The evening was cooling down, fireflies just starting to emerge. Grammy? Ethan leaned against my side, tired and happy. My friend Tyler says everyone has a mom and a dad. How come I just have you? We'd been building up to this conversation for months. Patricia had helped me find a child psychologist who specialized in adoption issues. We'd practiced how to tell him the truth in age-appropriate ways. Well, I said carefully, you do have a mom. Her name is Lily. She loved you very much. But she was sick when you were born. Sick in her mind, not her body. And she made some very bad choices because of that sickness. Where is she now? She's in a place where she's getting help, learning how to be healthy. Ethan thought about this, his 5-year-old mind processing. Is that why I live with you? Yes. She asked me to take care of you because she knew I would love you and keep you safe. Do you love me? My heart squeezed, more than all the stars in the sky. He nodded, satisfied. Okay, can we watch a movie before bed? And just like that, the conversation was over. There would be more questions later, harder ones as he grew older. But for now, this was enough. Inside, we settled on the couch. Ethan picked his favorite dinosaur movie, the one we'd watched approximately 300 times. He curled up against me, his head on my shoulder, thumb creeping toward his mouth even though he insisted he was too old for thumb sucking. Halfway through the movie, he fell asleep. I stroked his hair, listening to his steady breathing, and thought about how close I'd come to losing this ordinary evening, this beautiful, normal life. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Heard through the grapevine that the final trafficking conviction came through. Carol Patterson got 15 years. The couple from Connecticut got probation and permanent ban from adoption. It's really over. Margaret. Over. The legal battles, the custody fights, the investigations, all of it finally. Truly over. I looked down at Ethan's sleeping face. In the TV's flickering light, he looked so much like my husband, like Lily as a child. Before everything went wrong, we made it. I whispered, you're safe, you're loved, you're home. 7 years later, Ethan is 12 now, taller than me already, all gangly limbs and big feet. He plays Little League and is learning to code. He has my stubbornness and his grandfather's sense of humor. He knows his story, all of it, the good parts and the hard parts. Last month, we visited Lily together for the first time. She'd been released 2 years ago, was living in a supervised recovery house, working at a library, attending therapy 3 times a week. The visits had been slow to start, supervised, brief, carefully monitored, but she'd done the work, years of it, and Ethan had wanted to meet her. They'd sat across from each other in the visiting room, both nervous. Lily had tears streaming down her face. Ethan had clutched my hand but hadn't looked away. Hi, Lily had said softly. I'm your mom. Well, your birth mom. I know Margaret is your real mom in all the ways that matter. Grammy says you were sick. Ethan had replied, his preteen voice cracking slightly. That you didn't mean to hurt me. I was very sick. And I did hurt you. Even though I didn't mean to. I hurt you and Grammy and myself. And I'm so sorry. Are you better now? I'm better. Not all the way. I'll probably always need help. But I'm learning. And I think about you every single day. I'm so proud of who you're becoming. They'd talked for an hour. It wasn't perfect. Ethan had cried in the car afterward, confused and overwhelmed. We'd talked to his therapist about it. About complicated feelings. About forgiveness. About how love can exist alongside hurt. Do you think I should forgive her? He'd asked me a few days later. I think forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not something you owe anyone else. I'd said, when you're ready. If you're ready, it'll happen. But there's no rush. Now, I stand in my kitchen making dinner. Tacos. Ethan's favorite. And I hear him upstairs on a video call with his friends, laughing about something. The house smells like cumin and cilantro. The radio plays oldies that remind me of dancing with my husband in this same kitchen 40 years ago. On the refrigerator, held up by magnets, is a photo from Ethan's Little League championship game. He's holding the trophy, grinning, muddy and exhausted and thrilled. I'm beside him, my arm around his shoulders, looking at him with unconcealed pride. Next to it is a drawing he made in art class last week. It's our family tree. At the top are my husband and me. Below is Lily, connected with a line labeled birth mom. And at the bottom is Ethan, with roots spreading down into soil labeled Grammy's house. It's messy and complicated and imperfect. But it's ours. That bracelet, the one I found in Lily's car 7 years ago, is in a box in my closet. I've kept it as a reminder, not of the crime, but of what almost happened, of how close evil came to winning. But it didn't win. Love won. Stubbornness won. An old woman's refusal to give up won. Grammy, dinner ready? Ethan thunders down the stairs, all noise and energy. 2 minutes. Set the table? He groans but complies, pulling out plates while telling me about his day in a run-on sentence that barely pauses for breath. I listen, asking questions, laughing at his jokes, marveling at this human I'm raising. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. Taking on a baby at 63, sacrificing my retirement, my freedom, my peaceful golden years. I tell them the truth. I've never regretted it for a single second, because on the other side of that horror, that betrayal, that crime, that desperate search, was this: a 12-year-old boy who hugs me goodnight and tells me about his dreams, who does his homework at the kitchen table while I cook, who knows he's loved so deeply that he'll never, ever doubt his worth. We sit down to dinner together, just the two of us like always. Ethan tells me about the science fair project he's planning. I tell him about the book club meeting I went to this afternoon. We're just a grandmother and her grandson, sharing tacos on a Tuesday night. Ordinary, beautiful, hard one, mine. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear that a grandmother's love is a force of nature, fierce, protective, and absolutely unbreakable. Subscribe for more true stories of ordinary people who refused to let evil win, who fought for family when everyone said to give up, who proved that age is just a number when someone you love needs saving. What would you have done in Margaret's shoes? Tell me in the comments. And if you believe that family is worth fighting for, that justice can prevail and that love always finds a way, hit that like button and share this story with someone who needs hope today.